also, of course, Brexit on the horizon, as was it ever off the horizon? But, I mean, the real moment of telling is on its way. It seems it may only be a sort of, matter of weeks, really, until we have to basically admit that we cannot get a trade deal. And it's on the front of the Telegraph this morning that we're close to abandoning hope of a Brexit trade deal. In a time when we're borrowing more than we have for a very long time to protect us from, the economic aftershock of coronavirus, which we're still going to feel no matter what, the idea that we then have to start trading and imposing huge tariffs on goods with Europe and the rest of the world under World Trade Organization rules, it is a bit of an unholy situation, isn't it, that we're heading towards?
It's mad. It's absolutely crazy. It's national self-harm, turning large parts of Kent into car parks for lorries. The HMRC estimates that the cost of filling in customs forms, if we're out the single market in the customs union, is going to be something 12 to 13 billion pounds. We're going to damage ourselves with Brexit. I know people voted for it. People voted for all sorts of reasons. There'll be no 350 million pounds a week for the NHS. Boris Johnson, Michael Gove say, we'll stay in the single market, no problem there. Absolutely crazy to be doing this
Andrew,
in a period when the economy's taken a hit on the virus. Yeah. We're having a Cold War with China, and Trump is in the US like a rogue element.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, you've always been very confident, but you've always said, look, it's going to come down to the last few weeks. This is how the Europe will work. It won't happen till the very end. Then suddenly it's all going to come together. Even reading that headline today and the feeling that we're getting that it isn't going to happen, we are going to revert to the World Trade Organization terms. Are you still confident that it will get done?
I think there'll be a deal, and I think all you need to know about how utterly useless the European Union is, that Kevin Maguire seems to be still in love with, it took them 5 days this week to come up with a package to try to help countries worse affected by COVID. 5 days. They were 40 minutes from being the longest ever EU summit in the history of the European Union, which goes back to 1948, and we joined in 1975. It's a useless, incompetent organisation. Thank God we're not in it, because we'd have got lumbered with a huge part of the rescue bill too, and they're just incapable of getting themselves organised. Perhaps when they realise that the trade they do with Britain is far bigger for them than it is for us, they'll sit down and sign on the dotted line.
Andrew, open your eyes. Unlike that.
No, I keep my eyes open, Kevin. You seem to forget there was a Kevin. You seem to forget there was a referendum.
Excess death toll in the world.
Kevin, you seem to forget there was a referendum and the British people voted to leave.
You cling to that. Cling to that because you can't.
What do you mean cling to it? It's important.
All the arguments.
It's important.
4 years ago have been proved to be untrue.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Vote lie government.
Kevin Maguire just does not believe in the democratic vote of 1990. He's not democratic. He's not democratic, and he'd much rather put his.
But it is interesting, isn't it, that we could, which Boris Johnson has always said he won't, ask for an extension to this, but they won't. And the fact is that all the departments of government who this year would have been preparing for a potential no deal in December have been completely blindsided by dealing with furlough, by dealing with borrowing more, by dealing with the NHS. We are not in a position, are we? No civil servant has been able to presumably really spend the amount of time that is needed to prepare for no deal because of COVID-19. Surely the circumstances should be the thing that leads policy, not the policy sort of lagging behind the circumstances that we're in, which nobody expected 6 months ago.
Look, there's always going to be a reason for people like Maguire to wring his hands in despair and say, all those thickos who voted to leave, that we now have to have another reason to stay in for another 6 months, or is it another year, or is it another 18 months? For God's sake, we voted 4 years ago to leave. Let's just get out.
That's what you're clinging to. You're clinging to that.
No, I'm not clinging to anything, Kevin. I'm not clinging to anything.
I think you're being very rude to people who voted by calling them thickos. People voted to go out.
You think we're thick. You think we're thick.
Phrase, not me. You used it, not me. People voted for all sorts of reasons at the time. Some of them have been proved to be
never accepted the result.
When the virus struck, so many civil servants, tens of thousands, and the government machine was looking to try and make Brexit work. Didn't get Brexit done when he claimed, but I think the day, January the 31st, get Brexit done, Boris Johnson patted himself on the back, had a cake or drank English sparkling wine. I think the first cases of the virus were reported in the UK, the first confirmed cases. He was looking at Brexit, the virus came. Completely wrong-footed him. He took his eye off the virus ball. He missed it. That's why we got into this terrible mess. And now the virus is disrupting the preparations for Brexit. It's a kind of vicious circle. We're very unprepared. He's hoping if we leave without a deal, the economic hit we will take will somehow be lost in the virus mess. But people will lose jobs down the line. Manufacturing will suffer. Wait until they start going on holiday. They've got to pay more for their health insurance. Roaming charges come back on phones.